Hello, GenderqueerChat. It's Saturday, and this is Callie coming to you live from my bedroom floor. How are you all? So this week the topic is show us your wheels, your ride, how you get around. But unfortunately, I don't have any wheels. I don't have a car. Don't drive. I don't have a bike either, because where I live is a small town, and I just walk everywhere. And if I need to go somewhere further afield, I can get the bus or the train. And I like it that way. I like not having a car. I'm not a big fan of cars, and I like to use public transport where possible. So. But that doesn't help me with this week's topic. So what am I going to do? Well, what is the equivalent of wheels for someone who's a permanent pedestrian? That's right, shoes. Now, I know it doesn't exactly bust the stereotype of people who trend towards the feminine side of identity and gender expression, being very fond of shoes, but I am. I like shoes. I don't have a lot of shoes. If it weren't for financial and ethical production concerns, I would have one of those things of like a set of shelves with like compartments and then have lots of shoes. But A, I don't have the money, and B, I try to get my shoes in places I know that they'll be ethically made. And I'm a UK size 10. I don't know what size that is internationally, but that's quite big shoes. So I tend to have to buy men's shoes. So I'm going to show you the three pairs of footwear that I own. Right? So these are my everyday shoes. I don't think they're too butch. They don't have laces or anything, you just slip them on. And they're size 10s, and I got them in a charity shop. And they've held up pretty well. I think the toes are starting to leak a little bit, yeah. Toes are starting to leak a little bit. But I've had them for quite a while, and they were only £7. So they've served me well. Then I have this is my very butch walking boots. I've had these for a long time as well, since before I identified as genderqueer, but it's difficult to find size 10 boots which are not awfully butch looking. And I wear these when I'm hill walking or when it's particularly wet and miserable outside and it's just practical. They've got quite a lot of mud on them. One of the things I like about these boots is that they're made by a Welsh company called Mammoth, and that means mammoth. It's a mammoth. So yes, so everyday shoes, butch shoes, and then the other side of the spectrum are my feminine shoes, which I wear when I wear skirts and tight, which I do on rare occasions. But I would like to do more. Here's what they look like on my feet. Last time I wore them in a video was my audition video. No, that's not true. I did a video a while ago in which I was wearing a skirt, but you couldn't really see my skirt for most of the video because, as in most of my videos, I was sitting down. But I was wearing those shoes because I wear them whenever I wear a skirt and tights. You can see. They're actually a size 9, which makes them a little uncomfortable to wear, but it's difficult to find competitively priced size 10 women's shoes. And I like these shoes. I think they're nice. These are my favourite shoes, I would have to say. Perhaps because absence makes the heart grow fonder. I'd like to wear these shoes more often. Pumps, I suppose they are. Yeah, they're pumps. I'd like to wear these more often, and I'd like to wear skirt and tights more often. And I'm not sure quite why that is. This doesn't really have to do with the topic. I'm just going off on a bit of a tangent, but I don't really have anything to say on the topic, so I feel free to. I'd like to do that more often, but it's a little more difficult for people to pretend that it isn't happening, I think. And I've only ever done it on evenings out, and it sends a kind of a bit more of an unmistakable message, because if I'm wearing makeup, then people can just kind of pretend that I'm not wearing makeup, but if I'm wearing a skirt, I suppose, I don't know why I think that, but I think it would probably draw more comment, and it'd be more difficult for people to just kind of steamroller over, and that would be a good thing, but it might make my life more difficult, especially in the short term, because people, I think, people who I know, people around me, got used to my wearing makeup, and this is something else they would have to get used to. So we're going to have to see about that. I only own one skirt and one dress at the moment anyway, so I'd have to buy some more. How's this for a resolution for you, GenderqueerChat? Before I make my video, to make it exciting, I didn't plan this, I've just come up with this in my head right now. Before I make my video next week, I am going to wear a dress or skirt and tights and these shoes out in public before I see you next week. And next week, tacked on to the end of whatever the topic is, I will tell you about it. Okay, see you then.